It started on a morning so calm, it almost mocked the storm that would follow. The lake shimmered like glass, the mist curling off the water. And for a brief moment, I believed peace still existed in this place. Then I heard the shouting. By the time I reached the front gate of my ranch, I found Karen, a self-appointed queen of our neighborhood, HOA, standing there with her posse, arms folded across her chest like a dictator reviewing her empire. Thick chains wrapped around the iron gate, and a fresh padlock glared back at me like a taunt. She had blocked off my entire driveway, cutting me off from my own land. Behind her, a couple of HOA board members held clipboards and cameras, smirking as though they were about to film my humiliation. Karen's voice pierced the quiet morning. Effective immediately, this property falls under HOA oversight. You failed to comply with our environmental maintenance standards, and until fines are paid, your access is restricted. Her tone carried that condescending triumph she reserved for moments she thought she had cornered someone. My blood ran hot, not just because she had trespassed and tampered with my property, but because she had dared to claim ownership over what my family had built for 3 generations. This ranch wasn't just land. It was legacy. Emily, my sister, stepped out from behind me, her face pale with disbelief. She had come to the ranch for healing, still carrying the scars from her deployment overseas. Seeing her sanctuary violated by a neighbor's arrogance twisted my fury tighter. "You can't do this," Emily said, her voice shaking but steady. "This isn't your property." Karen's grin widened. "The HOA has full authority. Try fighting it, you'll lose. We always win." Those words lit something inside me that Karen never expected. She didn't know my background. Or perhaps she had forgotten. I wasn't just a rancher. I was a tactical coordinator who had worked with SWAT teams for years, training officers in high-stress conflict resolution. I didn't throw that fact around. But if Karen wanted to escalate this into a power struggle, she was about to find out exactly what kind of fight she had picked. I didn't scream back. I didn't shove her off my property, though God knows I wanted to. Instead, I pulled out my phone, tapped a number already saved under direct line, and within moments spoke words that made Karen's smug smile falter. "We've got a private property blockade. Trespassers interfering with access. Possible escalation. Deploy." She laughed at first, convinced it was a bluff. The board members chuckled too, muttering about empty threats. But then, in the distance, the low rumble of engines cut through the air. 15 minutes later, a convoy rolled up the rural road, black SUVs, armored vans, and uniformed officers stepping out with precision that sent a hush across the crowd. Neighbors who had gathered on their porches gaped, phones raised, recording every second. Karen's grin evaporated. "What is this?" she demanded, her voice shrill. "You can't just summon police like some personal army." Officer Daniels, one of the team leads I had trained personally, walked up with calm authority. "Ma'am, you've illegally blocked private property access. Step aside now, or you will be removed." Karen shrieked about bylaws, screaming that the HOA had the right to control every inch of land that touched the lake. But her words lost power against the sight of SWAT officers cutting the chains, unlocking the gate, and restoring the path to my home. Every click of the bolt cutters was a blow against her illusion of control. The crowd cheered when the gate swung open. And that's when the twist came, the unexpected voice of betrayal from within her own ranks. One of the board members, a man named Victor who had been silent through most of her tirade, suddenly stepped forward. "Enough, Karen," he said loudly, his voice carrying over the commotion. "We've gone too far. I warned you this was illegal, but you wouldn't listen. You dragged us all into this mess." The crowd erupted with gasps. Karen turned on him like a rabid dog. "Traitor! You're just jealous of my authority," she bellowed. But the damage was done. Her own people were cracking, and everyone saw it. I felt something shift then. For years, neighbors had bowed their heads under Karen's rule, swallowing her petty fines, enduring her harassment. But now, with SWAT standing guard at my gate and a board member breaking ranks, the fear that had bound them started to dissolve. A woman shouted, "She fined me for my kid's trampoline." A man yelled, "She trespassed on my dock." One by one, grievances poured out. The dam finally broken. Karen was surrounded, not by officers, but by the weight of the community she had tormented. The officers didn't need to drag her away that morning, though they could have. She sputtered and fumed, waving her arms in desperate denial. But the truth was already written in the stunned faces of her neighbors. This wasn't just my fight anymore. It was everyone's. And Karen had just lost the war. Karen's voice cracked into shrieks that bordered on hysteria, her arms flailing as if wild motion could erase what everyone had witnessed. She tried to step into the road, blocking the officers as they returned their bolt cutters to the van. But Officer Daniels raised a single hand, his tone sharp and final. "Ma'am, you are obstructing law enforcement. One more step, and you will be detained." The crowd that once used to shrink back from her rule now leaned forward with phones raised, recording every twitch of her rage. Her power wasn't just slipping, it was disintegrating in real time. Leonard, the HOA president, finally made his appearance, huffing and red-faced, as though storming in late would reassert control. He carried a binder thick with papers, waving it like a sword. "This is all within our authority," he barked, sweat soaking the collar of his button-down. But before he could spew another line, Victor cut him off. "Stop lying, Leonard," he shouted, his voice steady, no longer the timid follower. "Those invoices, those fake contracts you signed, every single one. I've got copies, and I'm not going down with you." A collective gasp swelled, followed by a cheer so loud even the officers exchanged knowing glances. Karen spun on Victor, spittle flying as she screamed, "You backstabbing coward. You're making this worse." But Victor didn't back down. He turned to me. "You were right. She pushed us all into this nightmare, and Leonard let it happen. We were wrong to stay quiet." And then he handed over a folder, thick with documents, directly into Officer Daniels' hands. That was the nail in the coffin. Daniels gave a curt nod, speaking into his radio. Within minutes, another unit arrived, not just for crowd control, but with investigators. Leonard tried to bolt, but two officers stopped him cold. His binder dropped into the dirt, papers scattering like broken lies across the ground. Karen, shaking, attempted one last desperate move, lunging at Emily, spewing venom about outsiders ruining her perfect community. But this time, it wasn't just law enforcement standing in her way. It was neighbors. Two women she had fined for improper curtains stepped forward, blocking her path, their arms folded tight. A man whose boat she had threatened to tow stepped up beside them. Karen froze, eyes darting left and right, realizing she had no one left to back her. And then it happened, the moment no one believed they'd ever see. Karen was read her rights. The pepper spray she had once waved like a weapon was bagged as evidence. The padlock she installed was photographed, and her wrists were secured in cuffs. The image of her being guided toward the police car, red-faced, hair disheveled, screaming about conspiracies while neighbors filmed, was the final collapse of her illusion of control. Leonard followed minutes later. His head hung low, shoved into a separate cruiser. Silence blanketed the road when the sirens faded into the distance. Then, like a dam breaking, applause erupted. People hugged each other, laughed through tears, and spoke words they hadn't dared for years. It's finally over. We're free. She can't touch us anymore. Emily's hand found mine, her eyes glistening, not just from relief, but from pride. For the first time since her return home, I saw her shoulders unburdened. This place could finally be the sanctuary she needed. But the story didn't end with Karen in cuffs. The investigation that followed uncovered a trail of fraud deeper than anyone had guessed. Leonard had funneled nearly $50,000 into his cousin's fake contracting business. Karen had weaponized compliance codes to line her own pockets, issuing fines that never went into community accounts. The HOA, once untouchable, was dissolved under court order. In its place, the county approved a cooperative board formed by actual residents, transparent and accountable. The lakefront, once shadowed by fear, became alive again. Kids played on docks without threats of fines. Families painted their homes the colors they loved. Barbecues, once canceled over smoke violations, returned with laughter and shared meals. And my ranch, no longer chained by arrogance, became the gathering ground for healing. Emily started hosting small retreats for veterans, her smile returning piece by piece. The twist none of us expected was the attention from outside. A local journalist who had covered the raid released a story that went viral. HOA shut down by SWAT team after Lakefront standoff. Soon larger outlets picked it up. Calls came from neighborhoods across the state. People asking how they could take back power from abusive boards. What started as one confrontation became a spark for something bigger. Months later, at a town hall packed with citizens, Officer Daniel spoke on stage beside me. The law is Clurno Group, not even an HOA, is above accountability. And sometimes it takes one person standing their ground to inspire a whole community. He gestured toward Emily, who received a standing ovation that brought her to tears. Karen's downfall was bitter, but it carried a lesson that echoed far beyond our lakeshore. Power built on intimidation always cracks under truth. And communities, once awakened, never again bow so easily. So I leave you with this: was I right to bring in the SWAT team? To expose Karen and Leonard not just to the police, but to the whole world? Or should I have sought quieter justice, behind closed doors and without the spectacle? Share your thoughts, because this isn't just my story. It's a mirror for every place where fear and arrogance try to rule unchecked.